All right, I'm just gonna move on. I want to talk about this individual known as Chad Bianco, who is starting his campaign for governor of California. I don't like him. I don't like him. I did a little bit of research on his background. Let's just start off like I don't really. Let's just set this straight. I don't like the Democrats. I don't. But when facts and truth are brought to the front, it's very important to see what they are. You know, Riverside County Democratic Party website. California deserves better. So let's just look into his background. Chad Bianco, born 1967, American law enforcement officer. Already. Who has served as sheriff of Riverside County, California since 2019, a member of the Republican Party. Bianco has been affiliated with the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. He is a candidate for governor of California in the 2026 elections. Now, I don't exactly have an issue that he's Republican in the sense of the name itself. If he brings ideas that bring positive politics to the front, offers, affordable healthcare, if he offers lower rents, if he offers a better public transit system, if he does all that, all for it. But knowing that he's a Republican that has a past to the Oath Keepers. If you don't know what the Oath Keepers are, I did some of that research too. Wikipedia, I know it's not like 100% reliable, but it's a fair place to find a general understanding of what it is. Oath Keepers is an American far-right anti-government militia whose leaders have been convicted of violently opposing the government of the United States, including the transfer of presidential power as prescribed by the United States Constitution. Now, violently opposing the government, kind of based. I'll be honest, a little bit based. But American far right. We're talking Nazi positions, Nazi ideology, anti-immigrant, most likely anti-worker, let's be honest. They want a Republican state that offers more tax cuts to the wealthy, more oppressive policies towards those who are not the same as them, and just not that good. Not that good. It's not that good. Let's see here. It was incorporated in 2009 by founder Elmer Stewart Rhodes, a lawyer and former paratrooper. In 2023, Rhodes was sentenced to 18 years of seditious conspiracy for his role in the January 6th United States Capitol attack. And another Oath Keeper leader, Kelly Meggs, was sentenced to 12 years for the same crime. 3 other members have pleaded guilty to the crime, and 4 other members have been convicted of it. They were part of the January 6th insurrection. Goddamn, the word left my brain. They were part of the insurrection. They were part of the violence. They're known for their violence, for their nationalistic ideology. Yeah. So, let's see. I forgot where was his Oath Keeper connection to? This, I mean, I'm 100. Is this this? Is this it? Is this it? Oh yeah, it is. Personal life. Following a hacking incident in September 2021 against a database belonging to the Oath Keepers, Bianco, along with 200 law enforcement officers, was exposed as a former member of the organization. He later stated that he paid $40 one-year membership in the organization in 2014. He says he did not renew it for the next year, but let's be honest, he probably still holds those ideologies and planning to run for government. Bianco has since disavowed the group's violent conduct. Let's be honest though, he still holds the ideology, because this was in 2010, the Boston Tea Party.
So, just as I don't go to the politicians, and just we sidestep the infrastructure, as Griffin said earlier, they have done a long march through our institutions. We have to do a reverse march. But I'm going to go right around the establishment and right to the people that make a difference. And just as we do that for current serving, I'm now going to do the same thing for the veterans. How many here swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution? Raise your hand. Okay, every single one of you and myself.
That's first red flag. The first red flag is that itself. Whenever someone says upholding the Constitution and the laws, they're usually meaning the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms. Because they don't really, let's be honest. Do they agree with the idea of the civil rights? That's part of the Constitution, right? I may have to do some more reading, but there's a lot of equality in that Constitution.
Included, should get down on our knees right now and ask forgiveness to the founding fathers looking down upon us in heaven, and to our children, our fellow citizens, for the
Already. Get on our knees and beg for forgiveness to the founding fathers? They're not the best people, man. They're not exactly known for recognizing people's individuals' rights when they own slaves. Yes, even Abraham Lincoln owned slaves.
Neglect of our duties, because we have allowed this country to deteriorate to the point where it is today. It's our own fault.
Another point there, he says about the corruption of today's society, which is the idea that those who do not believe in our ideology are like poisoning the well. That they are tainting the spirit of this country.
Because we have let the institutions, the essential institutions of liberty in this country deteriorate.
His continuation of that, this progressive future is not ideal, that he said.
I'm talking about the militia. I'm talking about sound money at the state level. Dr. Edmund Vieira is completely correct. If you do not have
Dr. Dier, I don't know who that is. You know, he sounds like an individual we should look into. Deier? Oh, wow. Wow. God. Okay, so Let's run this back just a quick second. I'm assuming this is the same guy they're talking about.
I'm talking about sound money at the state level. Dr.
He says right. Dier. Charles Allen Dier is an American convicted child rapist and former Marine sergeant who operated possession. Who operated as an advocate for the Oath Keepers. Dyer was charged in 2010 with child rape and illegal weapons possessions. Dyer evaded authorities and a manhunt ensued, followed by capture 10 days later in 2012. Dyer was convicted of raping a 7-year-old daughter. Oh, his own daughter. Dyer served in the Marine Corps during the Iraq War. Dyer revealed his identity at the April 29, 2010 Tea Party event in Lexington, Massachusetts, among the most powerful prominent Oath Keepers at the time. Oh, they love this guy. Stewart Rhodes. This is the same guy that was saying that he agrees with him. He agrees with his ideas.
Correct. If you do not have...
Not just correct, completely correct, he says. This is the same organization that Chad Bianco was following. And this situation happened in 2010. 2010. And then he said, "Oh, I don't agree with their violent tendencies. Did not renew for the next year. Disavowed the violent conduct." So it's the violent conduct that he doesn't agree with. But he's okay with their ideology. He liked it so much he paid for a year's worth.
If you do not have physical security, which means you, the people, as the militia, and if you do not have sound money...
Again, this is when he says upholding Constitution, he's talking about the Second Amendment.
Which means silver and gold in your pockets, then you are weak. And we have to revitalize those institutions now.
When he says silver and gold, he's saying his distrust of the, what is it called? The federal banks.
If we were to save this republic. And so, let us go around the established order, and let us get back to our roots and to the foundation of this country.
Roots and foundations. It's another word for blood and soil. It's another way to say that. It's another way to say that those who were here before had the right idea, and that we should go back to those ideas. But it's obviously his idea is a white supremacist land. This just all revolves back to white supremacy. Unfortunately, hate to say it, but that's our reality. If you don't understand what going back to roots and how it equivocates to blood and soil, here it is. Back to the land, approach and adoption of rural values. It held that German land was bound perhaps mystically to German. Now this one here is specifically for Germans, blood and soil. Now this is the idea to go back to a simpler time, what they say. Going back. He wants to go back to the roots of the foundation of this country. And what we all know is that this country was built on slavery. It was built on, let's see, lost the words. It was built on the idea that the workers should not get their pay. The workers should only work to work and not for a living. Where the idea where your own rights are not allowed to you unless you're part of the greater community, to say.
Let's do it ourselves. Picture you a building that is falling apart. It's crumbling, it's going to collapse. That's the fiat money system that's over us right now. We've allowed the political elites to erect this over our heads. And what are we doing right now? Is if we just sit and do nothing, then let it collapse on
Call to
top
action.
of us. Don't fool yourself that you'll be able to come out of the rubble and rebuild, because they have another infrastructure.
All right, that's it for that. The idea here is that Chad Bianco holds those ideas that the Oath Keepers are holding on to. And the Oath Keepers go back to the idea that you want to go back to a more simple time. Several organizations that monitor U.S. domestic terrorism and hate groups describe the Oath Keepers as a far-right extremist or radical group. In 2015, Mark Pitkavaj of the Anti-Defamation League described the group as heavily armed extremists with conspiratorial and anti-government mindset, looking for potential showdowns with the government. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the group is, what the fuck? The group as an anti-government group who believes in a wild set of conspiracy theories. The FBI describes the Oath Keepers as a paramilitary organization and a large but loosely organized collection of militia who believe that the federal government has been co-opted by shadowy conspiracy that is trying to strip American citizens of their rights. Some researchers have suggested the Oath Keepers' organizing principle is a profit-maximizing firm rather than hierarchical and close-knit club structure that many other groups in these categories show. So this is like a secondary shadowy government. This is a secondary shadowy government. This is like the Masons. The Oath Keeper are like the Masons of the present day. And this guy, Chad Bianco, believes in those same ideas. And then how do we know he's anti-civil rights? Right here. On February 21st, Bianco attended a press conference in San Diego with Republican leaders to promote State Senate Republican Minority Leader Brian Jones' proposed bill SB 554 to weaken the state California Senate Bill 54 of 2017 that limits law enforcement's ability to cooperate with ICE. Basically, he wants law enforcement to work with ICE. He wants law enforcement to enforce the ability to kidnap people off the streets without due process, especially today in this administration's America. We're already seeing that it's going to ramp up. It's going to try to become a secondary military, especially with the budget recently established by the recent bill passed. You know, we're not going to see exact situations happen now because they're just waiting till the 2026 elections. But after that, they're going to ramp it up 4 times as much. Not saying that those bills haven't affected people now. They have. Recently, they closed a clinic, I believe, in Arkansas or in a southern state. I don't know which one exactly, but they closed it prior to this bill going into effect because they know the effect it's going to have on their patients. That means less medical treatment for those in rural counties. Like, they're going to be having to go 2 hours away for help. So not only does he advocate against people's rights, against people's freedoms, in his own prison, in custody deaths, a 100 million lawsuit, drug and sex abuse rings, Chef Bianco's unfitness for duty exposed. In April 2025, in jails, a rash homicide and negligence by the New York Times. Summary pretty much says Riverside County jails have experienced a significant increase of inmates' deaths, promoting a state investigation into potential systematic issues within county's correctional facilities. People are dying in his prisons. Under his watch, people are dying. Riverside County's broken system. Why we need sheriff accountability now by Press Enterprise Commentary. The summary of the article says this article highlights the critical needs for independent oversight to ensure accountability and restore public trust in the county's law enforcement. He himself is contributing to the people's distrust. He's anti-people. He doesn't like people. He likes his own pigs. Let's be honest. He likes his own pigs. Keeping it real. Chad Bianco is wrong for California as Donald Trump is wrong for America. Black Voice News. Bianco's gubernatorial ambitions amidst controversies, including corruption allegations and violent jail system. Ex-Riverside County deputy gets probation for smuggling 100 pounds of fentanyl. A former Riverside County Sheriff's deputy has pleaded guilty to transporting over 100 pounds of fentanyl and been sentenced to probation. Okay, now I don't know how this correlates exactly to Chad Bianco. It might even been under his eye. He probably knew about it. Let's see. The sheriff's deputy, his right-hand man, George Alberto Oseguera Rocha, 26, was accused of smuggling fentanyl as a middleman for a Mexican cartel. Authorities said that there was no indication that he brought drugs into county's jails, where smuggling and resulting overdose inmates are an ongoing problem. Orocha, a Banning resident, pleading guilty last week to transportation of controlled substances and possession of controlled substance for sale. The plea was made directly to a judge over a prosecutor's objection. We did object on the record in open court to the defendant making a plea to the court based on the defendant taking advantage of position of public trust, he said. John Hall, a spokesperson for the Riverside County District Attorney's Office. Riverside County Court Superior Judge David Gunn dismisses sentence enhancing allegation of perpetrating a drug-related offense while armed, and imposed a 4-year term of incarceration, which could have been served in county jail because the offenses were categorized as non-violent. However, after factoring state credit intended to reduce overcrowding in correctional facilities and adding the time Rocha had already spent behind bars awaiting disposition of his case, the defendant's sentence was stayed and was released on Byrd Detention Center in Murrieta on Thursday, January 30. He is now mandatory supervision for 16 months. He was let out early. The only way to get out of that situation so easily is you have connections to the sheriff. The sheriff's department previously said in court affidavit that investigators intercepted Oseguera Rocha's phone calls and learned he was planning to travel to an unidentified narcotics stash location in Victorville. The sheriff's department. Who else was part of the sheriff's department but the sheriff himself? Chad Bianco. Sentenced to probation. Drug smuggling was like the number one reason that the president has set immigration. He's saying that fentanyl was coming in through the Mexican borders. Fentanyl was coming through the immigrants crossing the borders. But yet here we see 100 pounds of fentanyl sent, 100 pounds brought in by the sheriff's deputy in California. To say that the immigrants are the ones bringing in that the immigrants are bringing in the drugs is absolutely ludicrous, and we have here evidence that it's our own people, it's our own citizens, it's those in powers bringing in the drugs.
Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
They're not even doing their job in the prison. A 21-year-old inmate committed suicide in the River County Jail after deputies missed a scheduled security check. Their job is to watch over the inmates, and they didn't even do their job. A young individual in this jail obviously was known to be suicidal when there's security checks. The entire prison knows. But of course the sheriff allows this to happen. Accident or homicide. Medical ruling in arrest-related deaths can indicate what happens to police. Examines how medical examiners' classification of deaths influence legal outcomes for law enforcement officers. So he's twisting the law for themselves. This was in December 18, 2024. Last year, not that long ago, like 7 months ago. Sitting alone in a car, Jen Dold was crying too hard to drive. She had just received a manila envelope with her brother's autopsy reports. There it was, one devastating word, accident. The paper trembled in her hands. Their mother had called 911 for help getting Dold's 29-year-old brother Alex to the hospital because he was having a mental health crisis. 4 sheriff's deputies and 2 police officers shocked him with tasers, wrapped around an arm around his neck, punched and kicked him, then left him face down until they noticed he wasn't breathing. How could that have been an accident? Dold was certain it was homicide. Angry and grieving in the parking lot outside the county's medical examiner's office 30 miles north of Seattle, Dold vowed to fight. No more silence or complacency, she thought. No sweeping it under the rug. In the United States, police rarely face criminal charges, and when civilians die after officers use physical force, whether they can depend on the system that operates after the initial attention fate passes. Medical examiners and coroners who decide how and why someone died, what's known as the manner and cause of deaths. Okay, so the way that it relates is that many times the police have known to twist the outcomes of death cases partaking in police custody. Which means Chad Bianco would not be over, he wouldn't be against situations like this. he's willing to do a lot, especially with his connections to Oath Keepers. Miller sues Riverside County after Sheriff Bianco accused him of attempting to assassinate. Oh, yeah. So there is a lawsuit going against the sheriff for accusing him to trying to assassinate the president, just for him to look better. Van Miller is suing the county of Orange, the county of Riverside, after Sheriff Chad Bianco publicly accused him of attempting to assassinate Donald Trump during a rally in October 2024. Miller was arrested after deputies found guns in his car, which was near a checkpoint a mile away from the rally. Miller, a Nevada resident and Trump supporter, said he did not know about gun laws in California and never intended to assassinate Trump. Van Miller, the man arrested near Trump rally in the Coachella Valley, has filed a $100 million federal civil lawsuit against Riverside County and Sheriff Chad Bianco for falsely suggesting he was trying to assassinate Donald Trump. After voluntarily disclosing to deputies that he had firearms in the vehicle, which was a mile away from the Trump rally, the complaint alleges after that rather than issuing a citation, deputies detained Miller, conducted an excessive search of the vehicle, ignored his medical distress, and performed medical procedures without his consent. Miller was arrested on misdemeanor weapons charges. Shortly after his arrest, Chad Bianco held a press conference saying that his deputies thwarted a potential assassination attempt against Trump. So he sucks. He fucking sucks. He's creating lies to make himself look better. In custody death. The department reports the death of Joshua Frank swore in custody with no signs of foul play. Again, someone died in his service, in his own jail. Here we are. And this comes from riversidesheriff.org. His own website to say. On Sunday, August 2024, at 2:15 p.m., deputies from the Coys Bird Detention Center found an unresponsive male in an intake sobering cell. Deputies and jail medical personnel immediately administered life-saving measures until paramedics arrived on the scene. The male was ultimately pronounced deceased. The Riverside County's Sheriff Correctional Central Investigation responded and assumed the investigation. The inmate was identified as 41-year-old Joshua Frank Swartz of Lake Elsinore. There were no signs of foul play. The investigation is ongoing, and further information is available with anyone with information regarding this incident is encouraged to call. Let's be honest here. This guy is in a sobering cell, which means he's drunk or high. Which means people should be watching him. The sheriff, the deputies, the police should be aware of his situation. He's not like sane mind. He's inebriated, which the police should be watching him. But they didn't. They let him die. And police have known to change the outcome of death, as we seen in the last article. To assume no foul play is to assume that he wasn't in the facility, but he was. He was in their sobering cell. More families filing lawsuits against Riverside County Jail over deaths. Time and time again, people are dying in his own prison, in his own jail. under his ruling. I don't know how it's considered when a sheriff is in ownership or in place, but he is responsible for those deaths, every single one. Another one. The department announces the in-custody death of Mark Luther Price. Reports on 16 million drug seizures and arrests, and the arrest of sheriff's deputy raising concerns about corruption. This is the guy who's trying to take over the governorcy in California. This individual is known for corruption, is known for drug dealing, drug smuggling, and people literally dying in his care. This is the man who's trying to take over the seat. He wants to install his ideology in his reign, to say. And this goes on. There are so many instances. Let's see. Keeping it real. Still no oversight of Riverside Sheriff's Department, even as corrections officers are arrested and more inmates die. The IE Voice. This article highlights the lack of oversight in the Riverside County's Sheriff's Department amidst increasing in-custody deaths and arrests of corrections officers for misconduct. Despite a record number of in-custody deaths in 2022, Sheriff Bianco and County's Board of Supervisors have been hesitant to implement changes or establish oversight mechanisms. They love it. They want to continue doing it. They want more people dying in his arms, in his oversight. They want more drugs. This is how they're making money. It's just straight up drugs. I can only assume that he's working with the Oath Keepers in this drug smuggling trade, because they're known to not exactly follow the law. Now, that's my assumption. I would not be surprised if it came out to be true. If it's false, I'd rather be corrected. Riverside County Correctional Deputy charged with sextortion case. Correctional Deputy Christian Heidecker was charged with multiple felonies, including bribery and extortion, for allegedly coercing female inmates into sexual acts under the threat of punitive actions. Again, who is in charge? Chad Bianco. Riverside County's Sheriff's Department settles wrongful death lawsuit for $7.5 million. The county settles a lawsuit after a detainee died of cardiac arrest due to excessive force. Let's be honest here. Chad Bianco is a demon in human skin. He is playing part of a white nationalistic organization to uphold their standards of views in a non-violent way, but only in the terms of his... He doesn't even have policies. He doesn't state any policies. He's just running on the fact that he is a sheriff. And even under his own sheriff position, is full of corruption, is full of deaths, many points of drug smuggling, and just general distaste for the public. And here we have a situation with Kate defends his past membership. He's defending it. Bianco admitted being an Oath Keeper while also insisting that the aims of the Oath Keepers, which has emerged as one of the largest groups in the far-right patriot militia movement, have been misunderstood. KPBS. Riverside Sheriff defends his past memberships in the extremist Oath Keepers militia. This story was published more than 3 years ago. The sheriff of California's Riverside County outside Los Angeles has acknowledged that he once briefly belonged to the extremist Oath Keepers militia in 2014 after emails from the group were leaked online. In an interview, Sheriff Chad Bianco sought to downplay his past affiliations with the organization while also insisting that the aims of the Oath Keepers, which has emerged as one of the largest groups in the far-right patriot militia movement, have been misunderstood. In August 17, Oath Keepers members were indicted in connection with the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. I don't even remember joining Bianco. Bianco, who was elected in 2018, told member station KPCC in excerpts from an interview published on the LAist website. He maintained that the chat... Jesus Christ, dude, I can't read, can't speak. Fucking hell, I'm illiterate. He maintained that what happened at the Capitol was completely wrong, but that the Oath Keepers, which the Southern Poverty Law Center says has trained for a revolution against the state, are not anti-government. He blamed the January 6th violence on a few fringe people. If you remember the January 6th attack, it was not a few people. It was a mass movement with hundreds of people, possibly thousands. I don't know the exact number of individuals in the attack, but it was definitely not a few fringed people. There were so many people breaking in. There was so much going on that even police had killed themselves because of the PTSD and trauma they received from the attack. Many people were shot dead in the attack on the Capitol, if you do not remember. And this guy saying it was a small few French people. It was not. That's not really what they stand for, he said, of the group of people. They certainly don't promote violence and overthrow government. They stand for protecting the Constitution. He also expressed frustration that the Oath Keepers had been unfairly portrayed as far right-wing, attributing that the political toxic environment that we are in. He told KPCC, if you love America, if you are proud to be an American, and you support the Constitution, you are labeled as an extremist. That's the bare minimum. If you're considered an extremist because you love America, that's not even true. Like, she's lying. Brian Levin, director of Cal State San Bernardino Center of the Study of Hate and Extremism, note that at the time Bianco was a member of the group, it was less radical, they were less confrontational, but they still hold the same ideas. Just because they're not radical now doesn't mean they won't be radical in the future. If he's elected, I'm like 90% sure that the Oath Keepers will rise in their ranks for a larger movement and have impunity because a sheriff is in office. A sheriff that holds the same ideas. Bianco's remarks following the online outing of some of the Oath Keepers' emails by distributed denial of secrets or DDoS secrets, a WikiLeaks-like group that refers to itself as a transparency collective. Attention to the leak was drawn by a tweet from J.J. McNabb, a fellow at George Washington University's program on extremism. As NPR's Ryan Lucas reported in April that the Oath Keepers, believed to have started in 2009, have long sought to recruit military and law enforcement officials. A George Washington University report on January 6th insurrection quoted from the lengthy post published on the Oath Keepers' website in the days ahead of the riot. It exhorted its fight to defeat enemies foreign and domestic who are attempting to coup through a massive vote fraud and related attacks on our republic. That's how they're... Oh my god. They're defending the insurrection. They're defending the violence. They are wanting to continue it by saying that there was a coup, that they lost the election. They want violence. And they will bring violence